Welcome back. You're watching a big breaking news coming out of Bihar. The swearing in Maharashtra's Raj Bhavan has just concluded as the BJP Shinde faction Sarkar has been sworn in there, or at least new ministers of that government have been sworn in. But there could be tremors of that in the Raj Bhavan in Patna, because that's where Nitish Kumar is going to be headed in about half an hour's time from now to meet the governor there, which Alok Pandey, my colleague who's joining us from Patna, as we've been discussing, indicates that this could now be end game for the BJP Nitish experiment.
At least for now, yes, that is what it appears to be. So what is happening right now is that towards this side, if I'll just move a little ahead with Rajesh, so that I can give you a shot of what's happening here. So to one side you have one Anemark, which is the official residence of Nitish Kumar, and that place is to this side. And if you just turn the camera a little, to this side is the Raj Bhavan. So it's not very far. The Raj Bhavan is just about 20 to 30 meters or 100 meters at max from Nitish Kumar's residence. So all he needs to do is get into a car or walk. It would be great if he could walk, because we try and get a soundbite from him, but maybe he'll take a car and go inside. And then, of course, like we've been discussing, there are many options before him. Is he going to resign and then again reconstitute the government along with the RJD and Congress, or is he going to say that, look, is he going to tell the governor that I'm going to reconstitute it? I remain the chief minister, but now I have the support of the RJD plus the Congress, plus, as we've been discussing, the left, which has a sizable number of MLAs here, 16, out of which 12 from the CPI-ML have already given him unconditional support. And of course, Jitan Ram Manjhi's party, the former chief minister, the Hindustan Awami Morcha. So Nitish has the numbers. That is one thing that is certain. Even in this formation, he and the BJP plus Jitan Ram Manjhi's party had the numbers. And if he goes to the other side, he has the support, or that formation will have the support of 159 MLAs in a house of 242 currently. The strength is 243, but the overall strength, but currently it is at 242. So the halfway mark is 121. And he and the RJD and the Congress, etc., will have MLAs much over that. So if he actually walks out of here or takes the car to the Raj Bhavan, then it does look like it will be end game for his alliance with the BJP. For now, I say for now because, in the last some time, Nitish has gone to the RJD, returned to the BJP, etc. So you can't rule that out in the future. But for now, it does appear that, yes, it's the RJD and Nitish Kumar and the Congress, etc., who are going to form Bihar's next government, or be part of Bihar's next government.
Right, because that's the interesting kind of play here, Alok, that, elections in Bihar are still a while away, at least 3 years away, if I'm not mistaken. And Nitish Kumar would not want to put himself in a position, especially when we know how aggressive the BJP can be in these situations, where you're going to the governor and simply just resigning unless you have an alternative on the table. And that's the detail which still isn't clear as to whether he's already stitched up a deal with the RJD and the Congress with the numbers to say that these people are willing to back me, or is he just going right now as the first step to say he's pulling out support from this government and then waiting to cobble together the numbers. So I think that's all very interestingly poised, but it also indicates, Alok, that all these reports we were hearing since last night, our colleague Manish Kumar reporting that senior BJP leaders, including Amit Shah, tried to reach out to Nitish Kumar, tried to get him to change his mind. It doesn't seem to have worked. At least that's not the indication that one gets when one hears that he's going to Raj Bhavan.
Well, you're absolutely right. In fact, one meeting that happened in Patna yesterday was also interesting. So, Tarkishore Prasad, who is a senior Bihar BJP leader and one of the two deputy chief ministers in Bihar, yesterday there was a Janta Darbar here. So, Nitish Kumar, every Monday he holds a Janta Darbar where people come with their problems, etc. Earlier, when he was more accessible, he used to hold a press conference after that. Nowadays, he doesn't. But the deputy chief ministers were there. They were both there. And after that Janta Darbar got over, Tarkishore Prasad and Nitish Kumar had a 15-minute meeting where apparently Nitish Kumar said to Tarkishore Prasad that no, there's nothing serious right now. The government is on, etc. But nobody took that at face value. And it seems that the BJP ministers have also gathered at Mr. Prasad's residence. That is something that we have heard, that they have all gathered at the residence of Tarkishore Prasad. One option that they are exploring is that if this just go through now and we just have 10-15 minutes, then maybe they will put in their resignations, etc. Because one thing that we have heard here is that the BJP now is not trying anymore. They've said, okay, this is happening, let it happen, and we will see how this plays out on the ground. Because in the past also, Nitish Kumar has tried to go with the RGD. They formed a government, it hasn't had much success, etc., etc. So let him do what he has to do now. We are not going to actively now play any role in this. We are going to watch what happens and then decide, deliberate on our strategy. Which only in this situation, if this BJP, if this JDU plus RJD thing goes through, then for them they have to sit in the opposition. There doesn't appear to be any other option right now. So that is what that is the way it appears to be playing out on the ground here in Patna, Vasu.
Right, and it's going to be interesting, Alok, because this is not the first time that Nitish Kumar has jumped ship. I was actually speaking to a senior JDU leader this morning, and he said that, look, it does appear that the split is inevitable, but he said that's something Nitish Kumar will have to weigh as well about what this means to his reputation, that he was earlier with the BJP, then he crosses over to the RJD with Lalu, dumps that, comes back to the BJP, looks like he's going to dump them again, go back and forth. So there's that calculation as well, I suppose, that Nitish Kumar will be weighing. But it's also interesting, Alok, how quickly that bitterness and those rifts are forgotten, because for quite some time now, it does appear that there's been this kind of quote-unquote political chemistry between Nitish and Tejasvi Yadav. I mean, he left the alliance because of, allegedly because of Tejasvi and his inability to deal with Lalu's children. But there's been this weird chemistry where they, whether it's the caste census or whether it's to do with price rise, they almost often seem to be speaking the same language.
You're absolutely right. In fact, I remember that a few months ago, maybe Nitish Kumar also went to Tejasvi Yadav's iftar party. And again, he was the chief minister in an alliance with the BJP. And yet he walked, I mean, they live next door. So he walked from his house to Tejasvi Yadav's house. And, there was a very public show of, camaraderie, so to say, because there was the media and everyone, and many photographs were taken, everyone was smiling, etc. And that's when, I remember that is when the first murmurs that, all is not well between Nitish Kumar and the BJP started. And yet, look at how politics plays out, Vasu. I mean, you know it better than I do, but, if you remember, Narendra Modi came here, the Prime Minister, I think a month ago. And both Nitish Kumar and Narendra Modi shared a stage at an official function, and they were so effusive in their praise of each other. Nitish Kumar said good, lovely things about the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister said things about Nitish Kumar, and it looked like, no, ultimately these are all rumors, and the BJP and the JDU are going to finish their term here in this government in Bihar. But, how quickly things have changed in a month. You have the JDU saying that the BJP was trying to sabotage us, that RCP Singh, the ex-bureaucrat, and the ex-number 2 in the JDU was trying to, basically get MLAs within the JDU to defect or to rebel against Nitish, etc. So the bitterness very much there, but now it seems that, like we've been saying, it's reached that break point.
Right.
That point of no return for now between Nitish Kumar and the BJP.
Right, and of course, if the action shifts to the Raj Bhavan, as it's likely to very soon in Patna, that will be another big question. You have Governor Fagu Chauhan there, who's the current governor of Bihar. How he's going to respond to all of this, how that plays out, Alok, will be interesting. Let's just also get quick comments from our panel on this big breaking news. We've got two BJP voices with us. Alok Vats, leader of the BJP, is with us. PKD Nambiar, political analyst, supports the BJP. Alok Vats and PKD, thank you for joining us. So my line on this has been from the morning for the BJP that this is Pakka in Maharashtra, but Dhakka in Bihar. Is there a connection, PKD Nambiar? I've got a smile out of you. PKD Nambiar, is there a connection between the two? That when you try Game of Thrones in one state, with one Gathbandhan, one alliance, it may backlash you somewhere else.
Srinivasan, good to see you back on the screen, and welcome back.
PKD.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
I think this may be a suicidal attempt by Nitish Kumar. Either he must be feeling that it is the fag end of his career, and he just wanted to call it he wanted to exit in his own style. And if you really look at in the last 20 years of his political career has also been that he was always ready to go with anybody and everyone without having any strong ideological base per se. He went with Lalu, he went with BJP, and he was even in between Maji and etc. had come in. So the idea is that I think the vibrant Biharis do understand today that how extreme a political change and partner change will not go too much in the
but PKD, okay, but Alok Vats, while your PKD Nambiar says this is political suicide for Nitish Kumar, but how much of this is as I said, a dhakka to the BJP, that it is now appearing to be a party that just simply cannot hold on to its allies?
See, let me tell you one thing. There is a famous saying about Nitish Kumar, ऐसा कोई सगा नहीं जिसको नीतीश ने ठगा नहीं. For the sake of being the chief minister, he can ally with anybody, anytime, anywhere. You see,
but the BJP was very happy to go along with that.
Beg your pardon?
I'm saying BJP seems to have been very happy to do business with somebody like Nitish Kumar.
See, there are sometimes, Srinivas, political compulsions which make you go along with somebody. So that was the case here. But let me tell you one thing. The very fact that they came to power and went to the people against the Jungle Raj of Lalu Yadav and his cohort, the whole plank was Jungle Raj versus Susasan, and he was known as a Susasan Babu. Still people call him Susasan Babu. So
but you know, it's interesting.
Susasan is joining hands with the Destruction Babu.
But
so
you know, it's interesting. Alok Vats, you made an interesting point about Nitish, that you said, ऐसा कोई सगा नहीं जिसको नीतीश ने ठगा नहीं. But interestingly, the perception that Nitish and some of the JDU has is of the BJP is exactly that. That BJP जो उनके खुद के सगे हैं, उनको ठगता है. Even when it came to something like Chirag Paswan. So I'll tell you, Nitish Kumar's perception is so one of the things that apparently was the trigger is that Chirag Paswan was put up by the BJP to damage him. Just as the BJP has been accused of breaking, whether it is the Shiv former allies, whether it's the Shiv Sena, you've broken alliance partners in Goa, you've broken your alliance partners in other parts of the country, that the BJP also backstabs its former or current partners.
See, as regards Chirag Paswan, he had his own big ambitions, which he couldn't realize. He didn't realize that on the face of it, he was nowhere. So he became a vote katwa, damaging votes of other people. He has damaged votes for BJP also.
But what about RCP Singh? Okay, what about RCP Singh, who's a former Nitish aide, who the BJP co-opted, and many believe in Nitish's circles that you were making him the Eknath Shinde of Bihar. Isn't that again an attempt to backstab an ally of yours?
This is what the perception is being portrayed. But what is the actual fact? What is the proof that he was being used? Now he was the number 2 man of RJD, of JDU. There was a time when he was the most powerful man in JDU. Whatever he wanted, he did it. So where are we to hold all these things? There's just a perception that we were trying to use him.
If you take somebody belonging to another party and make him a minister without necessarily that party's consent, then
how did he?
Then what is the perception?
When did Nitish protest that he should not be a minister? Just a month back, Prime Minister was there in Patna, and they hold meetings praising each other.
Okay, so from your and PKD's take on this, it almost appears that the BJP is totally blameless in this. Entirely Nitish Kumar's decision. No introspection, lessons for the BJP, or perhaps you might have some lessons for the BJP. We'll take a break. I'm coming back to you. I'm sure both of you have views. We also have the Congress with us here. Anand Madhav, we'll just come back to all of you in a second. Welcome back. Are we heading for a Game of Thrones in Bihar, a shake-up as Nitish Kumar gets ready to go to meet the governor? Is there going to be a change of regime? And that's why the numbers become important in terms of what happens next. Because Nitish Kumar at the moment, we'll just re-cue that graphic and play it for you again, that at the moment, the NDA with the BJP 77 and JDU's 45 plus HAM, which is the smaller ally, the Jitain Manji ally, takes the NDA over the halfway mark of 112. But if Nitish Kumar ditches the BJP, then he needs the support of the RJD, which is 79 MLAs. He needs the Congress, which has 19 MLAs, and the CPML, it's 12 MLAs. They're all parties which are supposed to have indicated they'll support Nitish Kumar. That actually takes him to an even more comfortable position of 160. So that's almost 40 above the halfway mark, in which case then he gets to come back as Chief Minister, if that's the agreed upon formula. Otherwise, could things get a little messy? Could the BJP attempt to perhaps break the JDU or some of the other parties, and will it become a Maharashtra-like situation? So everything is very interestingly poised in Bihar. But let's just go across. Our panel has been with us. Let's go across to Anand Madhav, spokesperson of the Congress, is with us. Anand Madhav, what can you tell us about the Congress's position on this? We understood that there was some outreach between Nitish Kumar and Sonia Gandhi. We understand that the Congress has called a meeting of its MLAs in Bihar. Are you inclined to get behind Nitish Kumar if he dumps the BJP?
And everyone who is against BJP, who is against this communal politics, who is against this divisive politics, we all are with them. Whether it's Nitish Kumar or anyone else, it's very clear, and we do stand on this point. And second thing,
you're clear that you will support Nitish Kumar.
Yeah, we will support Nitish Kumar if he leaves Bharatiya Janata Party. It's very clear, and it has been already announced by our Bhakcharan Das ji, who is the national in charge for the Bihar. And the second thing, that BJP most of the time it has used its ally like a doormat. Use and throw policy, it is with the BJP. You see, there are a number of examples, you know better than me, Alok.
Okay.
And politics is a process which evolves, and the things which has evolved in Bihar is a very clear to everyone. And from the very first day, you can ask your Bihar reporter. From the very first day, Nitish Kumar ji, in this term, is not at all comfortable with the Bharatiya Janata Party. And that is,
the Nitish, okay, I'll come back to you on the Nitish BJP comfort levels and your allegations against the BJP, but let me just first focus on the numbers and the likely scenarios, because we are now just 5 minutes away from Nitish's appointment with the governor. I can see Manisha Priyam, political analyst, researcher, has also joined us. Good to have you as always, Manisha Priyam. Manisha Priyam, let's just roll the dice here a little bit. Nitish going to the governor's house. What do you think is the likely scenario that is going to ensue? Do you think Nitish has already stitched up some numbers from the Congress and others and RJD when he goes there? If not, what are the possible scenarios that could unfold?
So, as you know, this ride to the governor house is really something that you do either when the backroom situation with respect to numbers has been stitched up firmly, and somebody like Nitish Kumar, who's held the reins of chief ministership from 2005 and 6 without ever having a clear majority of his own, does know the craft of how to stitch up. And obviously, the stitching up between the chief minister's chairs and the governor house is something that he knows very well. From 2005 and 6, there never has been a moment of misunderstanding between the chief minister's residence at Madarshi Haryane Marg and the governor house close by.
Right.
So my understanding is option A, yes, it's been stitched up, but the other likely scenario is that, do you think he would go and say, okay, I have lost majority, no, and I'm going to resign? No, that's not what it is. It's a firm chief minister who's going to the governor house and telling him that for various reasons, the government that he led, the kind of mandate that he had, and that's come to a not for various reasons. It'll be interesting to see what is the discussion that happens between him and Governor Fagu Chauhan. Remember, last time around, it was the governor, Sri Ramnath Kovind ji, who Nitish Kumar backed, and that governor became the first citizen, the president of India. Also in the chair as the deputy speaker of the Rajya Sabha, a fact less spoken about, is also a JDU nominee, a very trusted and seasoned person with a letter and pen, Shri Harivanshi. So Nitish Kumar does have his ears and his eyes open. At this point of time, what is to be seen is really what the counter moves of the BJP are. Remember, on the ground in Patna, the BJP already said that the offensive, in a way, by Amit Shah and JP Nadda was that we are going to fight 200 seats. Remember, it's a BJP that's struggling under the stranglehold of the JDU. Its cadres feel that they are better off going on their own. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Manisha, we'll just come back to you in a second. Let's listen in to Shahnawaz Hussain, BJP leader.
मैं पटना जा रहा हूँ, लेकिन ये जिम्मेदारी कैसे छोड़ता? ये इतना बड़ा इन्वेस्टर, आप जानते हैं, आप यहाँ पे आते थे, यहाँ कोई इन्वेस्टर आता था, बिहार के बारे में परसेप्शन खराब हो जाता था, हम परसेप्शन बदलने में लगे। हमने जिम्मेदारी से, ईमानदारी से दिन रात मेहनत करके उद्योग को पटरी पर लाया है। मुझे पूरी उम्मीद है कि उद्योग पटरी पर बैठक में शामिल होने पटना जा रहे हैं क्या? मैं 3 बजे की फ्लाइट से पटना रवाना हो रहा हूं और पूरे देश के अंदर जो इन्वेस्टर हैं, जो उम्मीद है, जो नौजवान हैं, उद्यमी योजना में हमने 16,000 नौजवानों को 10-10 लाख रुपए देने का काम किया। अभी 21,000 वो हैं।